1v1, double cleanliness, two-way redemption, all villains, suit elegant and charming, oil painter, twilight smoke vs merchant, crazy criticism of loyal dogs, treasure appraiser, safe. Muyan has been following Gu Anxu for 4 years and has left the GUI. But for some purpose, he ignored her proposed breakup and even tried to intimidate her. The world of flowers is enchanting, and who is more innocent than who? Gu Anxu is looking for new love, and naturally some people are also greedy for her kisses. One day, Gu Anxu, who thought Muyan belonged to him, locked her in a corner for the benefit of his wealthy family and said, Muyan, since you don't want to come with me anymore, how about I find a way out for you again? Muyan pushed him away in disgust, rubbed the diamond ring on his ring finger, and said coldly, then you have to ask my husband if he agrees. The scumbag said in a daze, when will you? It's very early, just 3 days after you released the GUI. Gu Anxu, whose self-esteem was damaged, went crazy to investigate Muyan's newlywed husband. On the second day, the mysterious wealthy businessman in Jincheng, who was as handsome as a divine mansion and decisive in killing and attacking, was unharmed when everyone heard of him. He sat in the most prestigious position among the big shots and looked at him coldly, I heard you're looking for me. Keywords of the novel. Deadly Trap, no pop-ups, Deadly Trap TXT complete collection download, Deadly Trap latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Snake and Scorpion Beauty, It's Not My Fault. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Snake and Scorpion Beauty, It's Not My Fault. Muyan, don't be ignorant. This storefront transfer contract must be signed for me no matter what you say today. On a winter snowy night, in a cafe as warm as spring, Muyan looked coldly at the woman in front of her, who was handsome, full of big names, but domineering. This woman is Mo Kur, the second daughter of the Muyan family in Jincheng, who founded her own coffee brand and is currently located in the coffee shop. Muyan hates Mo Kur very much because this woman pesters her boyfriend Gu Anxu every day, and her older brother is older than her younger brother. Then, with a pair of seductive fox-like hanging eyes, she slowly fanned before calmly saying, Miss Mo, my place is a children's art studio, surrounded by educational institutions. It's not suitable for you to develop a coffee shop, and you obviously insisted on occupying my storefront because my studio is close to Anxu's company, so I naturally cannot give it to the woman who wants to dig into my corner. Muyan's seductive and cold face remained calm and composed, as if it could easily capture people's hearts. Although her tone of voice was gentle, her words hit the nail on the head. Mo Kur felt uncomfortable all over when choked, and a strong jealousy surged in her eyes. There are 2 steaming cups of coffee on the table. 3 seconds later. A cup of coffee poured over Muyan's face. Fortunately, she quickly turned her head away and spilled coffee on the dark red woolen coat on her body, not scalding her. Muyan didn't want to conflict with Mo Kur. She stood up and wanted to leave immediately, but Mo Kur grabbed her arm and angrily cursed, It's all you, you fox spirit. Not only did you harm my sister, but you also seduced my sister's fiancé Anxu. Faced with the domineering Mo Kur, Muyan's upbringing made her reason to say, Miss Mo, the police have already investigated your sister's case back then. If I were truly guilty, I would not be in front of you now, but in prison. Before Gu Anxu and I were together, his engagement with your sister had already been cancelled. As a patient with amnesia, I remember this very well. As a normal person, I think you should not have forgotten it. Mo Kur, who was more calm and cultured, looked like a monster with open teeth and claws. She was even more torn and said, and Gu unilaterally cancelled his engagement with my sister after she became a vegetable. It must be you, a slut, who lowered his head. As soon as these words fell, Muyan's clear eyes suddenly tightened. Just as Mo Kur was showing her fierce and proud gaze, suddenly a delicate hand waved towards her face. The next second, there was a crisp, pa sound that hit Mo Kur's face. Su Muyan panted slightly on her chest and gently swung her red left hand. If there is anything that can make Su Muyan give up her elegant and cultured posture, it is. Someone insults her with the word coquettish. This is her bottom line that cannot be touched. A few seconds later, Mocha regained consciousness and screamed, "You dare to hit me." Then she grabbed Su Muyan's coat collar like a madwoman. He picked up another cup of coffee and poured it on Su Muyan's fair and slender neck, then smashed her head with an empty coffee cup. Despite the pain on her body, Su Muyan raised her arms and was about to fight back when suddenly a chilling magnetic voice came from the door. "Muyan, what are you doing?" In one sentence, she instantly held her anger extremely uncomfortable in her chest. She turned her head and saw the man arriving, handsome and elegant, with a pair of deep peach blossom eyes that bewitched people. Wearing a knee-high military-style black woolen coat, the tall body exudes an extraordinary temperament. He was followed by 2 young men and 3 accompanying secretaries, who were obviously here to discuss business. Su Muyan took deep breaths, trying to control his anger and the pain in his neck. At this moment, Mo cried and shouted, "And Su Gu, I just said the wrong thing when talking to Su Muyan. Look at her fighting against you and hitting my face." Gu Anxu immediately saw the slap mark on Mo's face, and his eyebrows and eyes immediately pulled down. He coldly said, "Muyan, apologize to Coco." After finishing speaking, he saw the embarrassment on his woman's body and frowned again. Su Muyan thought he had something else to say, but Gu Anxu just reminded him, "Muyan, you need to understand your situation." Gu Anxu's words stabbed Su Muyan fiercely. Her situation is very difficult. She was originally an illegitimate daughter of the Su family, a wealthy family in Jincheng. With her national beauty and charming appearance, she was known as the top socialite of Jincheng along with Su Yuran, the daughter of the Su family, and Mo Wei, the eldest daughter of the Mo family. Due to her superior appearance, she was praised as the top socialite. And just 5 years ago, when the 3 of them were touring the lake together, an accident occurred. All 3 of them drowned, Su Yuran died, Mo Wei was seriously unconscious, and she was nowhere to be found. Everyone thought she was the most miserable, not even able to retrieve her body. But 4 years ago, she suddenly appeared in Jincheng and asked Gu Anxu, the heir of the Gu family who had a child relationship with Mo Wei, to disregard the family's interests and terminate their engagement with Mo Wei, announcing their romantic relationship with her. This incident shocked the wealthy circles in Jincheng. Because she lived well and the Mo family lost Gu Anxu, a quick son.in.law, the Mo family sued Su Muyan as the murderer of the other 2 girls. Just the case was investigated step by step, without any evidence of her committing the crime. Even she is not completely healthy. She doesn't remember anything from 4 years ago and has forgotten all her experiences. Gu Anxu took her to the hospital for examination and diagnosed her with hippocampal damage and psychogenic amnesia caused by strong stimulation. But the 3 of them became tigers, and rumors about her harming others spread throughout Jincheng. There were also rumors that she had a murderous heart towards Mo Wei in order to gain Gu Anxu, and implicated Su Yuran. Everyone cursed Su Daji, who had a snake and scorpion-like heart, and Gu Anxu was also influenced by rumors. He always hoped that she would face conflicts and suffer some losses to turn small matters into reality. But she doesn't want to suffer losses, and when things go wrong, others will label her as guilty of being a thief. Once a person makes a mistake, it's always wrong. It's better to be oneself. She emphasized, "It's not my fault." Gu Anxu ignored her words and said in a commanding manner, "Give the storefront of your studio to Coco, and I'll give you another one." Su Muyan's lips curved into a cold smile. She shook her head and took out a tissue from her pocket before gently wiping the coffee off her body. Gu Anxu followed her movements and saw her hot red neck. He remained silent for 2 seconds, but only sternly said, "Listen." Su Muyan didn't react or say anything. Gu Anxu immediately lost patience and said, "If you don't listen, do you want to break up?" Su Muyan paused and said, "Anxu." She still lowered her eyes and managed her expression calmly. "You've been threatening me with breakups, you think I dare not leave, right?" In front of many people, Gu Anxu did not intend to compromise. "If you think so, then break up." Su Muyan raised her eyes and looked quietly at the man in front of her. She should have gone through many extremely complex things in the beginning. 5 years ago, she, Su Yuran, and Mo Wei had an affair in China. But 4 years ago, Gu Anxu was rescued from the hands of a group of thugs overseas. Reading Guide 1. Emotionally mature, all CPs are pure and not either black or white pets, abuse, or sweetness. Those who pursue mindlessness can leave. 2. All members are evil, and the selfishness, greed, selflessness, and sacrifice of human nature coexist. 3. Emotions are mainly based on a hazy and ambiguous tone, with pure emotional flow. 4. The male lead is Shang Wushang, who criticizes his wet father crazily, with a strong contrast. 5. Breaking the mirror and reuniting, Shang Wushang is a paranoid criticism with many flaws, but in some sense, it is also super perfect. Su Muyan may seem to have many flaws, but she is complete and sacred, and there is also Gu Anxu, who is a refined scumbag with external perfection and internal breakdown. Finally, welcome to this story. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Golden City Demon, Remember Me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Golden City Demon, Remember Me. If he stays one step late, she will be taken to hell by those beasts. Her parents have both died, and if her Su family would come to find her, it would only be to catch her and fight for Su Yuran's life. It is said that those beasts were found by the Su family and the Mo family together. Even now, the Su and Mo families have not given up on taking her life. It was him, with the words, Gu Anxu, who provided her with a protective umbrella and gave her a safe place to live. Everyone, including herself, knows that leaving Gu Anxu is a dead end. Gu Anxu also felt that she dared not leave and always liked to break up to threaten her compliance with him. However, they risked their conflicts before and did not face outsiders. She was grateful for his life-saving kindness and affection, and chose to take a step back. Now he is indiscriminately favoring Mo Wei's younger sister, so what is she? Okay, let's split it up. She agreed. Mo Ker's eyes shone brightly, but Gu Anxu's expression was even more unsightly. Su Muyan cannot easily break up with him. He thinks she understands this more clearly. But now, for the first time, she agreed to break up regardless of her own situation. It seems that she has really been wronged. Gu Anxu sighed and walked around to Su Muyan. He took out a candy from his coat and stuffed it into the woman's hand. I was impulsive just now, but we're one. If you're at a disadvantage, you're just being magnanimous for me. Be obedient and go home first, okay? Su Muyan straightened her hair, neither agreeing nor refusing. She picked up her bag and quietly left. Since Gu Anxu has shown weakness, she naturally prioritizes her life and does not hesitate or ask too many questions. It's snowing heavily outside. Goose-down snow falls on the land of the north, like a dream whispering to the night. Su Muyan's head was restless, and as she descended a small slope, she suddenly stepped on the frozen ice. Ah! In her screams, she was about to fall when suddenly a strong and powerful man's arm grabbed her waist from behind. She tightened her heart and then turned to look, her misty eyes suddenly froze. He is an exceptionally good-looking man. This man is exquisitely crafted, as if he were a masterpiece in the fleeting stars and frost, painstakingly sculpting and sculpting. A thin white cigarette was lightly bitten by him, and a pair of cold and deep phoenix eyes narrowed. A half-bright and half-ignorant spark flickered in front of his face, highlighting his cold and noble temperament as if carrying a destructive aura. In this extremely cold temperature, he was wearing a thin leather windbreaker with 2 open flaps, inside was a loose white sweater, and the high-top leather boots on his feet were tied loosely inside the shoe barrel without laces. His figure is also very tall, visible at a height of 1.88 meters. In that moment, a name also popped up in her mind. When she was stunned, the man helped her up and curled his lips, saying, "Isn't this the little fox from Gu Anxu's family?" The deep and rich voice was lazy and playful. She breathed a sigh and said, "Shang is unharmed, boss Shang." The man frowned and said, "You remember me?" She nodded lightly and spoke carefully, "Well, not long ago, Anxu was doing business with you in the south. I had a meal with him, and now it's my second time seeing you." What she can remember now are things, or people that can shock her vision. The man lifted his left hand and took the cigarette from his lips. His hand has distinct joints and is slender and beautiful. It is on the thumb of his left hand, which is broad and vulgar, wearing a non-vulgar object, carved with a red jade ring of a 9-tailed fox. He lit some cigarette ash and curled his thin lips, saying, "Nonsense, I've seen you countless times." Su Muyan remained silent. In her current memory, this is the second time she has seen him, but she has a feeling of familiarity with him. But she won't know him. He is also a person with many controversies, otherwise, as the object of public controversy, there must be rumors about them. Shang is unscathed and the most mysterious tycoon in the business world of Jincheng. I don't know who his parents are or what his family background is, but I only know that he is only 28 years old and his assets are spread all over the world, with gold and silver mines of all sizes. Rumors have it that he has a bad character and has reached the top of the business world through shady means. There are also rumors that he has been in prison for several years and just emerged in the summer. After coming out, I didn't know how to keep a low profile, singing every night and sparking fire every day. And such a person, on the other hand, gave birth to a beautiful and prosperous appearance, which is like a demon-like existence in the Bible. Gu Anxu's influence is already strong enough, but he has also told her to take a detour when he sees Shang unscathed. She straightened her snowy hair and nodded unharmed at Shang, saying, "Thank you, boss Shang." After speaking, she was about to leave. Unexpectedly, she was attracted by his stunning appearance and forgot for a moment that she was still on the ice, so she slipped again. The man went to retrieve it again, but his footsteps also slipped. The two of them fell together, and when they regained consciousness, the man lay in the 5-centimeter thick white snow. She lay on top of him, supporting his sturdy chest with her hands. The man looked at her and chuckled low, "Little fox, you didn't mean to, did you?" Su Muyan's small face blushed slightly, "No." Then she quickly got up, but as he became more panicked and his movements became chaotic, she didn't get up again and threw herself at him again, with her forehead touching his cold lips. The man laughed out loud and said, "You said no. Just not." Her face became hotter and hotter, and her heart almost jumped into her throat. As she spoke, she was about to get up again, but the man lifted his hand and flicked her long hair that was scattered on her chest. He looked at the coffee stains on her red neck and collar and asked softly, "Why did you get scalded like this? Didn't Gu Anxu just come over? Who spilled coffee on you, him?" Su Muyan's heart-wrenching emotions froze and erupted like a tsunami. She seemed to hear a hint of concern in the man's indifferent voice. She first stood up smoothly and gracefully patted the snow on her body, suppressing her discomfort and saying, "Boss Shang, good eyesight. Thank you again for your help. You didn't fall, did you?" Shang is unharmed and won't support her, saying too much is boring. The man also stood up, patted the snow on his body, took out a lighter, and lit the almost extinguished cigarette again. "I fell but didn't fall. But I have poor eyesight and nearsightedness, but I can see you clearly." Su Muyan's heart was racing wildly. What does this mean? She continued to nod and then turned around, carefully stepping on the snow and descending the slope. Shang Wushang followed behind her and continued, "It's late at night. You're walking alone at night. Can Gu Anxu rest assured? Why didn't he provide you with a bodyguard and a car? Although you have a nickname called Sidaji, you are not a real fox. Su Mayan's tear glands were sour for a moment because of this sentence. Just now, I felt that his words had a hint of concern, but now I can clearly hear respect. But she dare not get too close to unfamiliar men. She is afraid that waiting for her will be the destruction of sheep entering the tiger's mouth. After taking a few quick steps, she distanced herself from him and said, "My house is not far from here." She fell silent, and suddenly a cigarette but with sparks accurately threw it at her feet, once again blocking her way. Immediately after, the man approached her again, with a stunning face that felt a bit disgusted with the world. "Gu Anxu, how are you doing?" End of this chapter. Chapter 3. How are you doing? Demons are not evil. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 4. Unclear right and wrong, just protecting shortcomings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Unclear right and wrong, just protecting shortcomings. Gu Anxu frowned. Shang Wushang pointed to a beautiful woman beside her, who I still pity and covered in water. My person just scolded her voluntarily and dared to splash water, so I had to let her taste the taste of soaking in water. But Shang Wushang lifted his chin again, and the next second, Mo Kur was pulled out of the water. Shang Wuchi tilted his head to look at Mo Kur's face, which was flushed and extremely embarrassed by being soaked in hot water. Mokur coughed violently twice and shouted at Gu Anxu, "Anxu, it's that woman who provoked me. You must. Gulu gulu." The person was pressed down again. As Gu Anxu was about to speak, Shang Wushang said first, "Hey. Anxu, I remember your woman didn't look like this, did she change?" This made Gu Anxu's expression look very ugly. "Mo Kur is my younger sister, she's safe, give me face," he said. "I can give you face, Anxu." Shang Wushang still smiled wickedly, "Even if it's my younger sister, I have to be someone else's woman in the future. You come to save her, do you know that?" After he finished speaking, Mo Kur was pulled out again, and after a few more breaths, she was pressed down again. This scene made Gu Anxu look embarrassed. Shang Wushang lived up to his reputation and was ruthless. He said, "My woman knows." "I don't believe it." Shang Wushang got off the sofa and walked up to Gu Anxu, who was slightly taller than him. "If I play a video for your woman and she pleads for your sister, I'll let her go." Gu Anxu's face darkened and he said, "Shang Wushang, why did you mention my woman?" Shang Wushang said, "At the very least, when it comes to discussing emotions, one must be focused. It's strange to see Mr. Gu's love affairs." Gu Anxu's tightly furrowed eyebrows twisted into a knot, and the chill spread. "Shang is unharmed, aren't you interested in Su Mayan?" Shang Wushu's eyes paused slightly and he chuckled softly. He took another step forward, his head misplaced in Gu Anxu's ear, lowered his narrow and long eyes, and said calmly, "I met a little fox before." Gu Anxu's face suddenly stiffened. Then Shang Wushang said, "However, if I wanted her, you wouldn't come over now to save Mo Kur, but to see Su Mayan in my arms, with that small mouth being fiercely kissed by me." Gu Anxu was fiercely stimulated by these words, "If you touch other women, I will give you room to negotiate, but if you touch Su Mayan, Shang is safe, I will not tolerate it." Shang Wushang looked back and fixed her phoenix gaze on Gu Anxu's eyes, smiling almost sickly. "Oh, I love others the most, they stimulate me." Gu Anxu's throat bone swallowed, and he was oppressed by the man in front of him. "What exactly is it that you let people go?" Shang Wushang said, "I said, let your woman plead." Gu Anxu looked at Mo Kur in the fish tank, who was about to be tossed to death. His Adam's apple rolled and he took out his phone. The batch of goods he recently requested can only be produced by technology companies under the name of Shang Wushang in East Asia. If there is an unpleasant conflict with Shang Wushang and the business is ruined, he will have to go to Europe and America to buy them, which will increase the price several times. So he had to back down and play a video for Su Muyan. The woman is currently squatting in the bathroom, pouring water into the bathtub. She was wearing a slim-fitting white nightgown, more and more like a fairy exposed to human fireworks. After she picked up the suddenly popping video, this look caught the men's eyes. At the same time, she also saw that Shang was unharmed. The woman's seductive long eyes paused for a moment and said, "Anxu, where are you?" Gu Anxu flipped the camera and looked at the scene in front of him. Unclear and his unharmed girlfriend had a conflict. "Can you please ask for a favor from Unclear and her unharmed girlfriend?" This tone is indescribable whether it is a request or an order. Su Muyan's heart was beating wildly. In the picture, Unclear was pressed into the water, feeling very uncomfortable and suffocating, but her pent-up grievances were suddenly released. However, upon further reflection, it was Shang Wushang who was teaching Unclear a lesson on behalf of his woman, and she couldn't help but envy her. The video is aimed at a woman named Shang Wushang, who looks pretty, but objectively speaking, her facial features are not as beautiful as those of a man named Shang Wushang. However, Su Muyan understands that a woman's fortune is not directly proportional to her beauty. And then again, why did Shang Wushang ask her to plead for Unclear? Her voice was calm and gentle. "Why am I pleading? Miss Mo and I are not familiar." Shang Wushang appeared in the video, causing a wicked smile and saying, "That's just not asking for it, right? I would like to ask what Miss Mo has done to your girlfriend." Shang Wushang smiled and said, "My friend Yi Ling, I met Ms. Mo tonight and scolded her for being ugly. However, Ms. Mo dared to splash her with water." Su Muyan. That woman's name is Yi Ling. And this matter seems to be Yi Ling's fault first. Su Muyan suddenly wanted to laugh. She is nothing but Su Daji. Yi Ling is the one who will make Shang Wushang, that demon, unable to distinguish right from wrong, blindly protect and dote on her. "Miss Su, if you want to plead for Mr. Gu's sister, hurry up," Shang Wuxu said again. "My larger fish tank is coming soon, and I've decided to soak Miss Mo in hot water until tomorrow." "Yeah." Suddenly, Su Muyan's voice of panic and astonishment came from the other end of the video, followed by blurring and noise coming out, and then he fell into a lag. Gu Anxu hung up and called back, but no one answered. Shang was unharmed but laughed recklessly, and Zhang Juanmei's divine face trembled with a dazzling smile. "And at home?" Su Muyan looked at the phone that fell into the bathtub, her seductive eyes curved into a smile. "Anxu, it's not that I'm not pleading, it's that I was startled by Shang's words and dropped my phone into the water." She pretended to be weak and talking to herself, vividly portraying a Su Daji who reversed the truth. On the other end, Shang Wuxu turned a blind eye to Gu Anxu's extremely ugly face and smiled, "Anxu, since there is a beautiful woman at home, why don't you bring me trouble if you don't go home and sleep with her?" Mo Coer Ismi was his former fiancée A's sister, and he didn't say that. He remained silent for a moment and changed his tone. "Business is fine. If you insist on doing so, it will have a significant impact on our cooperation relationship. You'd better consider it carefully." "I don't care so much." The demon continued to smile, but he suddenly turned around and went to the side of the fish tank. The bodyguard immediately dodged, and he pressed Unclear's head straight to the bottom. And there are pebbles at the bottom of this fish tank, and the next second, a red mist disperses in the water. His arms were all soaked, but as he looked at the gradually turning red water, he laughed arrogantly and bloodthirsty. "A woman who moves me is really looking for death." Upon seeing this, Gu Anxu quickly went over to grab someone, but Shang Wushang suddenly pulled Unclear out of the water and pushed her directly onto Gu Anxu. "Stop playing, take her out," he said. Gu Anxu took a step back to stand firm, while Unclear's forehead was punctured, blood was oozing out, and her entire upper body was scorched red. She also had goosebumps on her arms, like a chicken that had been scalded and stripped naked in water. She stood in front of Gu Anxu and couldn't say a word, clearly frightened. However, such a scene made Gu Anxu even more aware of the terrifying aspect of Shang Wushang's safety. Shang Wushang is violent but also knows how to handle things, like a snake in the dark night. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Caring for Beauty, a Treasure for Men. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Caring for Beauty, a Treasure for Men. After Gu Anxu left with Mo Yi Ling, who was sitting on the sofa, stood up, wiped away the tears from her eyes, and immediately changed into a cold and resolute expression. She walked up behind Shang Wuxu and said, "Wuxu, Muyan has no reaction to me either." The man's gaze gradually lost focus with Gu Anxu's back. After more than an hour, Gu Anxu returned home. Su Mu wrapped his cigarette butt in a dry hair cap, tightly grasped his phone with both hands, and looked at the man returning home with worried eyes. "Anxu, has Mo been saved?" As soon as the man took off his coat, she looked embarrassed and said, "Anxu, it's not that I didn't plead, it's that I was startled by Shang Wushang's words and dropped my phone into the water. He's really scary. My heart is beating so fast now. If you don't believe me, please listen." Gu Anxu walked over, but unlike other couples, when a woman releases a signal, she will stick it close. But he bent his lips and sighed, "Shang Wushang's behavior style is indeed reckless, and I'm afraid he's normal, but fortunately he didn't dare to go too far, so he let Ku'er go afterwards." Su Muyan bent her lips and then handed over the flooded phone. "The phone can't be turned on, can you help me fix it? The phone is actually broken." After wading through the water for the video to hang up, she took it out and wiped it before turning off the machine, and took out the power bank to charge it. Then, before smelling the burnt smell and the possibility of the phone exploding, she promptly unplugged the charger, and the phone was completely scrapped. And the woman who used a phone for 4 years to exchange ink for her lessons is worth it. Gu Anxu looked at the woman's water-cutting eyes, as well as the expression that relied on him. His expression gradually softened and he also looked at his phone carefully. After confirming that it was broken, he casually threw it into the trash can on the side and said, "There's no need to repair this phone. It needs to be replaced." Su Muyan glanced at the phone that had fallen in the trash can. Although it was broken, Gu Anxu threw it too decisively. If her amnesia had improved, or if it had worsened one day, would he also be so determined towards her? But now she dispelled this negative thought and smelled a faint smell of alcohol on him, thinking that he should have had a few drinks with someone during dinner. So she poured him a drink and said, "He didn't embarrass you, did he?" Gu Anxu nodded and said, "Although he is crazy, he has a clear mind and knows he still has business to do with me." "That's good." Gu Anxu took a sip, not plain water, but lemon water that had filtered out the residue. It was perfectly sweet and sour, and the temperature was moderate. She would mix this kind of drink for him, probably because she smelled the smell of alcohol on him and asked him to sober up. He really liked Su Muyan's subtle thoughtfulness. And considerate and stunning beauties have been treasures pursued by men since ancient times to this day. After a moment of contemplation, Gu Anxu said, "By the way, Shang Wushang told me that he met you before." "Yes," Su Muyan remained calm with a gentle smile, "but I remember what you said." This statement is ambiguous, but it expresses her attitude. She was not unaware that Shang Wuqi insisted on her pleading tonight, but there were some subtleties involved. Gu Anxu has a domineering personality, and she cannot let him be too suspicious of her. But she didn't know how much Gu Anxu knew, so she could only test it first. But Gu Anxu knew nothing, and he immediately understood this as her hiding away. "Well, remember, if there's any entanglement with Shang Wushang, it's difficult to deal with. Remember." She said. She stood up and said, "I'll give you shower water and blow your hair." "Okay." After Su Muyan blew for a few minutes, Gu Anxu, who had changed into pajamas, stood behind her. He took the hair dryer from her hand and passed his finger through her long hair. The heat blown out by thousands of Yuan hair dryers is gentle. Su Mayan's heart gradually softened, and deep down in her soul, she couldn't resist this kind of affection or the lack of love in her life. When seeking this kind of comfort, Su Mayan had a hopeless idea in her heart. If she didn't ask Gu Anxu more about his relationship with other women, would it be good to just be a couple with him like this? In no time, the hair was blown out. Gu Anxu gently turned her around and stroked her hair on both sides. Su Mayan slowly blinked her eyes, capturing every change in Gu Anxu's expression. Gu Anxu's heart was restless when she looked at her like this. His hand brushed over her cheek, gently pinching her chin, and his gaze fell on her mouth. Suddenly, the words spoken by Shang Wushang before him lingered in his mind. That little mouth was fiercely kissed by me. Men who understand men and can say these words must truly think so. His fingers went up and touched her lips. Su Mayan felt what he wanted to do, and she lifted her face slightly, half closing her beautiful eyes. Her chest also became restless, and after falling in love with Gu Anxu, she also hoped to be intimate with him. When Gu Anxu noticed the change in Su Mayan's expression, his Adam's apple wriggled and his head gently bent down. As his lips were about to touch hers, he suddenly froze. After a few seconds of reaction, he closed his eyes and held Su Mayan in his arms. He didn't kiss it anymore. This situation has occurred countless times over the past 4 years. Although Su Mayan felt regretful, she was not disappointed by it. She hugged him and rested her head on his shoulder, admiring the male aura that reassured her. There are not many things that she can remember, but she remembers many things 4 years ago very clearly. After being rescued by Gu Anxu, she was in a state of mental breakdown and spent half a year in a nursing home in the south before gradually returning to normal. After she was discharged from the hospital, Gu Anxu held a large bouquet of roses and asked if she could be his girlfriend. Even though Gu Anxu saved her, he was a stranger to her at the beginning. However, after spending half a year with Gu Anxu in the sanatorium, she developed feelings for this wealthy and powerful man who saved her from hell. Almost all species are prone to developing feelings for a soul like a divine weapon descending from the sky when in dire straits, and besides having such feelings for Gu Anxu, she also touches his companionship day and night. She then readily agreed. But one day, Gu Anxu wanted to kiss her, but she reflexively avoided him. At that time, she didn't know why she was hiding. After thinking for a long time, she came to the conclusion that there might still be a psychological shadow from being scared by those thugs. After she truthfully explained this idea to Gu Anxu, he never made such a request again. And just as she once drank a little wine and saw that Gu Anxu was really good looking, she had the idea of being intimate with him, but he didn't want to touch her anymore. Still, like now, when he suddenly feels the urge to kiss her, he will suddenly stop. People are always extremely complex. She thought to herself that Gu Anxu is a proud son of the emperor, and women who like him tend to fall in love with him. Her initial resistance to him may have also dampened his self-esteem. If you don't do it, then don't do it. It's not too late to do some things after the relationship is completely reconciled or after getting married. However, Gu Anxu and her ideas are completely different. Su Mayan hugged him with a relaxed expression, but his expression was tinged with pain. Not being intimate with Su Mayan is actually his reason. He has a strong obsession with emotional cleanliness. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Past Events, Crazy Criticism of Dad. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Past Events, Crazy Criticism of Dad. Su Mayan once eloped with an unknown man at the age of 18, and later became pregnant and had a miscarriage. He knew nothing about her past, knowing that her pregnancy was discovered by chance through a friend abroad 3 years ago. Because her stunning appearance is always unforgettable, someone secretly captured her who was pregnant at the time, and as a result, he saw those pieces of evidence. And knowing that she had an induced abortion, He relied on clues to find the place where she had eloped before and found it in the hospital there. She gave birth to a 6-month-old female fetus 4 years ago, and the biological father of the child is unknown. He is not like other men, he easily socializes with women or goes to bed, harmoniously, so he doesn't care about a woman's love history. He has always been pure and self-centered, and is not lacking in the pursuit of high-quality women. Therefore, deep down in his heart, he completely cannot accept a woman who has died in her belly. He just found out that after the incident, he felt nauseous even after eating the same dish as Su Muyan. Su Muyan is not a foolish woman, on the contrary, she is extremely intelligent. Her college entrance examination score was among the top 3 in Jincheng back then, and she was such a beautiful and excellent girl who did something that rebellious girls may not even know how to do. Elopement, pregnancy, induced abortion, unknown father of the fetus. Even later on, Mo Wei, who had always been well-behaved and sensible, had an inseparable connection with her when things went wrong. She must be such a bad girl. She was so bad that he scratched his heart and liver, thinking of her past embarrassment and self-inflicted wrongdoing, and wanted to clean her up hard. But he really likes her, from the clean 16-year-old to the infamous 20.4-year-old now, it's been 8 years. After being held by him for a while, Su Muyan pushed him away and said, "You take a shower, the water is getting cold." However, after Su Muyan left, he drained the bathtub and turned on the shower. Su Muyan never knew that he had never used the bathtub she had used in the past 4 years, even though she would clean it spotlessly with disinfectant every time she used it. There is a mountain villa in the southern suburbs of Jincheng that is comparable to a resort. Mingyue Mountain Villa. Everyone in Jincheng knows where it is the mansion of demons. At midnight, the SUV, which was equivalent to a small tank, rolled over the gravel and snow on the ground and arrived at the small villa in the center of the villa. The car lights illuminated the small courtyard in front of the villa. As soon as Shang Wushang got out of the car, he saw a small figure darting rapidly from inside. He quickly bent down and hugged. After he straightened up, a small figure hung on him, and a crisp sound of milk packets echoed through the cold wind. "Dad." She is a little girl with big and bright eyes, but the tail of her eyes is raised, very distinctive. And her nose, mouth, and even face shape are completely a mini version of Shang Wushang. Her dark hair was tied in 2 twisted braids, and she was wearing a white coral velvet jumpsuit with little foxes printed on it. Shang Wushang quickly put the hat behind the child's pajamas on her head and walked indoors, also chatting with the child. "It's 12 o'clock, my girl. Why haven't you slept yet? The snow is so heavy that I want to listen to my dad tell a story tonight before going to bed." Entering the room, Nanny Lin nodded and said, "Sir." "Well, you go rest." Shang Wushang carried his daughter all the way up the spiral staircase to the bedroom on the 2nd floor. The interior decoration is like a forest in a fairy tale, with a bed in the center that is 3 meters wide and fenced. The 3 sides of the bed are piled with small animal dolls and 2 not too thick blankets are thrown. 1 pink, 1 gray. He put his daughter on the bed to take off her coat, while little Loli immediately dug out a set of big pajamas from the nearby wardrobe and said, "Dad, Christmas is coming soon. Let's wear the deer tonight." It's a set of cartoon men's pajamas in light pink, full of deer prints. Shang was unharmed and took it to the neighboring cloakroom. After he finished changing, Xiaoyulai took off her thick pajamas and put on the same style of parent-child pajamas as the man, sitting obediently on the bed waiting to listen to the story. Shang Wushang looked at his daughter, her handsome face exuding a gentle and ultimate smile. "Did you drink any I? "No." Then the man walked over to the table by the window, which had a milk bottle and formula, and next to it was a wall-mounted water purifier. A few minutes later, he poured a 180 milliliters bottle of milk powder for the child before getting into bed. The child took the milk powder he had prepared and quickly nestled it in his arm. The curtains were not drawn, and the courtyard of the villa was lit with cold white lights, and snow could still be seen fluttering. He looked at the night and spoke softly in a low voice, "Tonight, I'll tell you the story of a big fox meeting a big bad wolf." Okay, I love listening to Dad talk about big foxes the most. One day, a black mouse next to the big bad wolf bullied the little fox. The big fox was so angry that it wanted to bite off the neck of the black mouse. Wow! The big fox is so fierce, I really like it. Did it bite? No, I just gave it a lesson because the big fox and the little fox have a cute little fox like Shanshan. It can't go too far, otherwise the judge of the forest, Mr. Elephant, won't let it go and will catch it. This way, the little fox will have no father. That little fox is so pitiful, but Shanshan is different. Shanshan has a father. Little fox is not pitiful either. It has a mother, but Shanshan doesn't, said Xiaoyulai, suddenly pouting again. The man paused, and just as his gaze fell on his daughter's face, little Loli smiled and said, "Mom and Dad have a happy child because there are still many children who don't have a father or mother, right, Dad?" Shang Wushang raised his hand and searched his daughter's fleshy face. "Yes, it's so clever." Shanshan stopped speaking, her big black grape-like eyes fixed on the snow outside the window, her cheeks streaming up and down, and she could hear her gulping sound. After a while, she reported, "Nei. Finished." Shang Wushang took the bottle aside first, and then carried her to the bathroom with one arm. Shanshan stood on a stool in front of the sink, holding an orange children's mug with a pony pattern in her hand, and the end of the children's toothbrush in her hand was also a pony. Shang Wushang is next to her, with the same mug in her hand and a normal white electric toothbrush. Shanshan was born in 2014 and belongs to the horse zodiac. He was born in 1990 and also belongs to the horse family. After he accompanied his daughter to brush her teeth, he carried Shanshan back to bed and opened her audiobook. He went to wash the bottle and then took a shower. By the time he finished all his tasks, Shanshan had already fallen asleep. But the storybook she had at hand still had gentle voices accompanying the music. The duck mother took her children to play in the pond. The little tadpoles saw the little ducks sliding back and forth with the duck mother in the water, and they thought of their own mother. "Sigh, where is our mother?" Shang Wushang didn't immediately close the story. He listened quietly, his gaze depicting his daughter's face. The child is so much like him that it is difficult for others to notice her shadow. Men who can take care of their children are very charming, while those who take care of their children are even more charming. They do not accept refutation. P.S. The timeline in the story is the end of 2018. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Pride is cold and thin, beauty is disappointed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Pride is cold and thin, beauty is disappointed. As long as she doesn't challenge Su Muyan's bottom line, she is a person who is easily satisfied and doesn't like to nitpick. Tonight, she watched through a video that Shang Wushang was cleaning up Mo Kur. Gu Anxu returned and gave her a hug, and she immediately put aside the unpleasant experience that had happened between her and Mo Kur. She lay in bed, lit a small table lamp to protect her eyes, and went to sleep. She was about to enter a good dream when suddenly Gu Anxu's voice came from beside her. "By the way, Muyan, I will help you sign the transfer contract with Coco tonight, and also select 3 new storefronts for you. You can go and see them all tomorrow." "All right." Her finally recovered good mood is instantly ruined, and she doesn't need to sleep well tonight. Su Muyan opened her eyes and her focus softened for a moment. Her voice whispered, "Anxu, I was almost asleep just now." "Isn't that still asleep?" Gu Anxu hugged her through her thin air conditioner. "Those 3 storefronts are not far from my company, and one is in the White Horse Square opposite my company, which is also good." Su Muyan closed her eyes and clenched her hand on the blanket to calm herself. "Anxu, Mo Kur's transfer contract requires me to vacate the store on the 25th. What will my studio employees and children do? Gu Anxu wrote lightly, employees will receive an additional month's salary to terminate the contract, children will have their tuition refunded, and you can wait for the new store to be renovated, so you don't have to worry about employees and customers. Su Muyan's nose is very sore. She pushed away Gu Anxu and turned around. After facing the man, she turned her beautiful eyes cold. Even if the renovation is fast, it will take 2 months. The teacher in the studio, Xiao Ju, was finally recruited by me from someone else, and her mother needs to take medicine for a long time. It's almost the end of the year, and she's still waiting for me to give her the year-end bonus. Suddenly, you resigned all of them. Where am I, Anxu? Moreover, this is also irresponsible to children. Gu Anxu not only didn't feel anything about it, but also showed a bit of impatience. Muyan, I've already considered letting you open that studio for you. I didn't want you to do the sesame business that costs around 1,000,000 yuan. Upon hearing this, Su Muyan sat up, stroked her long hair, and raised her tone a bit. Anxu, you still don't understand the meaning of opening that studio. Why don't I understand? Gu Anxu also sat up and looked at Su Mu, who was clearly unhappy. I just want to do something that can pass the time. As I said, my secretary can be done by you, without you having to do any complicated work. Just pour me some tea and water, and when you have free time, you can just draw in my office, can't you? Su Muyan pursed her lips and tears suddenly welled up in her eyes, swirling profusely. Her bottom line is 3. Firstly, she cannot be called promiscuous. Secondly, one can dislike her due to rumors, but without any wrongdoing, one cannot lowly belittle her for no reason. Thirdly, treat her like a waste. What she has is only amnesia, not mental disability. She knows a lot of things and can even speak fluent English. She is skilled in cooking and handcrafting, and can even draw realistic oil paintings by hand. She didn't talk nonsense to Gu Anxu anymore and didn't get along well. Since 3 years ago when she had no intention of being exposed to painting, she realized that she had no memory of learning to paint on her own, but was able to skillfully use the paintbrush in her hands. She was so excited that she cried. Drawing allows her to use this skill to silently express her intricate emotions and earn money. Even though she needs to rely on Gu Anxu's power to survive, she can at least rely on herself to make money. She doesn't want to be a caged bird. But once she told Gu Anxu about her thoughts, he didn't take it seriously at all. That's right, Gu Anxu, who is worth over 10 billion yuan, can easily recruit top talents in various fields. Who cares about her expertise? And she is not a famous master. A painting is appreciated by people, and selling it in 6 figures is also sky high. Ordinary works are only a few thousand yuan. This amount is really insignificant for Gu Anxu. Standing tall will bring you scenery that ordinary people cannot see, but you will also overlook many things. Gu Anxu, the proud son of the emperor, was strategizing in the business world. His smallest business was also measured in millions, so he couldn't see how his employees worked hard and fulfilled their lives. Jincheng is disliked by many people, but it is also a city with strong inclusiveness. There are not only native Jincheng people here, but also many outsiders who come here to make a living. Those people have already worked hard to survive, but who has the leisure to flip through the old history and gossip in the upper echelons of Jincheng? Just like Xiaoju, a young girl from an ordinary family out of town, she learned about her rumors from some troubled parents of students, but said, Pan Jinlian was a very virtuous woman in history, but under the pen, she became a promiscuous, harmonious, woman. Sister Su, as long as you haven't been taken away by the police, I only believe in what I see of you. Su Muyan got out of bed with her phone in hand, wiping tears from the corner of her eyes. Even though she was in tears, her voice remained calm and composed. Christmas is still 3 days away, and the contract will take effect once it's signed. I'm going to add another shift now and arrange the follow-up matters. Gu Anxu watched her figure walking out of bed with a gloomy expression and eerie coldness in her eyes. A man sitting in the position of heir can't be an ordinary person, can he not understand how to speculate about people's hearts? It's just a matter of balancing interests. Gu Anxu knew that Su Muyan likes to paint, and he even knew that she won the championship in a youth art competition abroad for an oil painting she painted in her 3rd year of high school. Her work was even auctioned off and she was ultimately awarded 3 million yuan. He could tell from Su Muyan's management of a small studio that she also has a talent in business. But he can't make her stand out too much. The person who wishes to obtain the treasure never cares whether there is controversy on the treasure, but only cares about its value. What if Su Muyan blooms brightly like summer flowers, and he cannot control it? What if someone breaks it from his hand? Twilight smoke. He snapped at her. Su Muyan stopped and didn't look back. What's wrong? Come back to sleep, I'll handle those things for you tomorrow. Send it away. Su Muyan wiped away the tears on her cheeks and smiled so disappointed behind his back. A proud son is truly cold and thin. No need, you've been busy all day and went to bed earlier. If it's too late after I finish, I'll sleep in the study. Gu Anxu pursed her lips tightly and lay down again with anger. When Su Muyan agreed to break up at the coffee shop, he went to coax her because the 2 men he was talking to in business were both prodigals. If Su Muyan were free, they would definitely take action. And now at home, at most she just goes to a study, can she still leave? End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Blushing and Heartbeat, Completely Absent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Blushing and Heartbeat, Completely Absent. However, when he thought so fearlessly, he couldn't help but be fascinated by Su Muyan in his heart. She is really a fairy. She was sad and angry, still wiping tears, but her steps didn't accelerate. Her narrow waist twisted and her steps swayed slowly. She walked to the door, gently and slowly pressing the tears on her face with her hand, and then with extremely gentle movements, she closed the door. Her small movements are not afraid of him, they are the same as before. She was once an illegitimate daughter but was hailed as the #1 socialite, truly deserving of her reputation. As soon as Su Muyan arrived at the door of the study, she heard the sound of hurried footsteps behind her. As soon as she turned around, she was picked up by the tall Gu Anxu with a horizontal waist. I really lost to you. The employees are all on paid leave to complete the renovation of the store. Can I help you arrange classes at other children's centers, children? Su Muyan struggled a few times, but Gu Anxu didn't let go. After a moment of silence, she said somewhat distantly, thank you. She and Gu Anxu lay on the same bed again, wearing pajamas and covering their respective blankets. Gu Anxu wanted to talk to her again, but the woman tightly wrapped herself behind his back without moving. So the man also turned his back. A bed over 2 meters wide, with everyone sleeping on the far edge, and the empty space in the middle feels like a ditch that cannot be filled at all. When Gu Anxu noticed a somersault behind him, he slowly turned over and saw Su Muyan sleeping soundly. He took out his phone and checked the time. It was already 5 o'clock in the morning. He stared at Su Muyan's picturesque sleeping face for a long time, and then reached out to wrap his hand around the one she placed on the pillow. At the moment of physical contact with her, he couldn't help but think uncontrollably about what would happen after she eloped with someone, but this time he held on to her despite his inner frustration. He hasn't fallen asleep yet, which was stimulated by the statement that Shang was unharmed tonight. And Shang Wushang, who had stimulated him, was sleeping quietly at this moment. He had a small head under his chin, and the child's sleeping face was very cute. His mouth was slightly open, and there was also a drool, quietly climbing up to the corner of her mouth. Su Muyan had a strange dream. The scene resembles an abandoned industrial factory, surrounded by bricks and rusty steel alloy. She sits on a brick-built stool, with an easel in front of her, and in front of the easel is a table made up of rusty steel. A black hoodie was laid on the table, and a peacock blue glass long-necked bottle with a missing bottle mouth was placed on the hoodie. She was drawing the bottle with a pencil, but the light and dark relationship between black, white, and gray was difficult to handle. Suddenly, a tall shadow came from behind, and a cold white and beautiful hand reached out and grabbed her hand. She was a bit nervous and also a bit pleased, her heart was beating so fast. Then he moved it manually, and she followed his movements and strength, jumping different depths and shades onto the canvas. She woke up without a trace from her dream and found that her hand was being held by Gu Anxu. He is sleeping now. Su Muyan pulled out her hand and gazed at Gu Anxu's face, her eyebrows gradually furrowing. It's very strange. In her dream, she had a kind of original intention that was as real as what young girls say about a man who had not even dreamed of a silhouette. However, when she faced the handsome Gu Anxu, she never had that kind of mood. Her fondness for Gu Anxu can be described as flowing like a stream, with a sense of stability. And blushing and heartbeat, completely absent. And over the years, she has also met some so-called old people she has forgotten, but they recognize her. No one has revealed to her what kind of man she once had feelings with. Those people also believed that it was her former crush on Gu Anxu, and then jealous that Mo Wei had taken the blame. If she had really had a crush on Gu Anxu before, would she still forget him so thoroughly now that she is guarding him every day? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Warm Memories, Fairy Tale World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Warm Memories, Fairy Tale World. She took out her phone, chose superstition once, and then explained her dream to Zhougong online. What's going on when she dreams of being attracted to other men? The Zodiac Network explains it this way. Dreaming of being attracted to another man indicates that there may be some changes in your work in the near future. Su Muyan didn't look any further. It should be a casual dream, quite accurate. She lay down for a few more minutes before getting up. Pouring herself a glass of milk, she stood on the balcony looking out. The snow has stopped, the northern country is thousands of miles frozen, covered in silver, truly beautiful. She curled her lips and for some reason, a thought came to her that she wanted to make a snowman. But looking back at the tightly closed door of the bedroom, she turned her head desolate again. Earlier this year, she made this request, but Gu Anxu didn't even look at her and casually replied, "If you want to see the ice sculpture, I can take you there." Sometimes when I think about it, it seems that her temperament does not match that of Gu Anxu. 9 o'clock. Sparkling woke up in a daze and happened to see Shang Wushang rubbing his hands back. Her father's hair was disheveled like a chicken coop, and he wore cat ear muffs of the same style as her on his ears. His delicate nose was slightly red from the cold. And Dad himself woke up when he saw Shanshan, his deep eyes slightly stunned. "Dad will immediately charge you nei.nei." Shanshan hugged the little panda and sat up, rubbing her eyes. "Dad, where did you go?" The man looked back at her and curved his lips. "Outside, Dad will take you out later." When he was preparing milk powder for his baby, Shanshan got up, washed his face, brushed his teeth, and even made a blanket. Afterwards, she sat in the bedroom with her adorable baby girl at the front of the dressing table, her bottle thumping and thumping. Shang Wushang sat behind her, her thin lips holding a black rubber ring. He picked up a macaron-colored comb, first dividing Shanshan's thick black hair in half, and then using his slender and distinct fingers to fluff the hair. Then his lips moved slightly and he said, "It's cold today, you need to wear a hat. Dad will help you tie a super cute upturned braid." His movements may not be very skilled, but they are also sharp enough. Although not very symmetrical, he first tied 2 low ponytails for Shanshan and then braided them into a simple 3-braid. The man's movements were slow and meticulous, and his gaze was fixed on his daughter's face in the mirror. In a daze, with her eyes slightly blurred, a beautiful girl sat obediently in front of him. Her left and right hands combined, and there were always 7 fingers wrapped in gauze. She propped her right arm on the table and supported her chin with her right wrist, squinting her seductive eyes at him in the mirror. "Brother, will you still help other girls wash their faces and comb their hair in the future?" He held the ink-black 3,000 strands of love in his hand, lowered his eyes and smiled lightly, "Yes." In an instant, the girl's head tilted slightly to one side and raised an eyebrow to look at him. "When you give birth to a daughter for me in the future." Before he could finish speaking, she curved her pink lips and smiled at him in the mirror, both cute and mischievous. "If you're willing tonight, maybe you can fulfill your wish in 10 months, she said. He lightly flicked her brain and said, "Don't make a fuss." Recalling the past, Shang Wushang couldn't help but smile. Shanshan, who was sitting in front of him, took out a set of colorful small leather rings from her cute leather ring box and said, "Dad, I want to use this." Afterwards, he folded the braided hair in half and tied it in sections with macaron-colored leather loops, causing the 2 small braids to curl up. Finally, he put a few furry hair clips on the back of Shanshan's head, and Shanshan's hairstyle was completed. In about 10 minutes. Sparkling and excited laughter like silver bells came from the dense forest of the villa. Shang passed by unscathed slowly, and saw him dressed as a clumsy and shiny bear, but with agile movements jumping and bouncing in the snow. The withered branches hanging from some trees around the child are covered with snow-made hearts, stars, ducklings, and gourds. There are also some creative little rabbits, cats, and birds piled up on the trees. On the ground, there are 3 humanoid figures of foxes that resemble sculptures. The tallest one is wearing Shang Wushang's hat, while the second tallest one has a furry scarf from the nanny Tsuation around its neck. Among them, the little fox is wearing a sparkling warm 3-piece set. The fox family is surrounded by monkeys, pandas, lambs, horses, tigers, and lions, each of which is lifelike and not lacking in cuteness and childlike innocence. Almost every animal that comes to mind is here. Shang Wuxiu got up at 7 o'clock in the morning and, with his artistic skills in ice and snow, created a fairy tale world for his daughter, just like he had done for her before. Born in the north, she used to always rejoice in every winter and the arrival of snow. She once said that snow is the sacred coronation of winter. Sparkling and excited, she happily turned around this small kingdom of ice and snow, greeting every little animal. As soon as the conversation was over, she suddenly stopped and turned her head, blinking her big eyes to ask if Shang was safe. "Dad, I suddenly remembered that Siberia we went to last year was an ice and snow world, and there were also big bad wolves there." She remembered the story that Shang Wuxiu told her last night. "Again, Dad, there are no big bad wolves or mice here. Are big bad wolves and black mice friends?" "I think so. The friend of the big bad wolf bullied the mother fox. Will the big bad wolf also bully the mother fox?" Upon hearing this, Shang Wushang's eyes gradually dimmed, and he remembered the water vapor in her clear eyes when she faced the snowstorm yesterday amidst the heavy snowfall. He raised his hands and nestled them together, exhaling a warm breath into his palms. His voice was faint, "Don't worry, the big fox won't allow anyone to bully her." Shanshan immediately calmed down and continued to greet the little animals around her. "Welcome to my home. My name is Shang Xingsan, and you can also call me Shanshan." "Why is Shanshan?" Dad said, "Shanshan is loved." When Shang regained his senses unscathed, he crouched down and said to his daughter, "Shanshan, there's still one less elephant who rules the order here. Let's welcome Mr. Elephant together, okay?" Okay. About 10 minutes later, Mrs. Lin came here to have breakfast with them and was also surprised by the scene here. Seeing Mrs. Lin, Shang Wushang and Shanshan finished their work. Shanshan was very happy and ran at the front, with Mrs. Lin following Shang Wushang. She turned back frequently to look at the snowman, who could be equivalent to an ice sculpture, and couldn't help but say to Shang unharmed, "I have never seen a better father than you, sir." Shang Wushang curved his lips and smiled without answering. He squinted his long eyes and watched as he ran in the snow before him. During breakfast, there was a sudden ding-dong sound from Shang Wushang's phone. Moon Class A Parent Exchange Group, 53, Teacher Yuan Jicheng. At all parents and friends. Recently, there has been continuous heavy snowfall. In order to ensure the safety of our children, our Jinbao kindergarten will continue to suspend classes from tomorrow to the 25th. The school is tentatively scheduled to resume on December 26th, shake hands emoji, flower emoji. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Civic and Despicable, a dissolute and promiscuous son. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Civic and Despicable, a dissolute and promiscuous son. Xiao's mother. Received, teacher. Grandma Haochen. Got it, handsome old man. Zitong's mother. It is said that this snow will fall until New Year's Day. It is the biggest snow in the past 2 years, right? Shang Wushang watched as the parents kept outputting messages and also tapped the screen twice. Xingsan dad. Got it, teacher. Putting down his phone, he turned his head to the sparkling person next to him who was spreading strawberry jam on toast and said, your kindergarten is still closed. It seems like you can't spend Christmas in kindergarten this Christmas. But after breakfast, Dad can accompany you to continue building snowmen and strengthen your ice and snow kingdom. Then in the afternoon, Dad will take you shopping and help you prepare a Christmas tree. You can also use your pocket money to prepare Christmas gifts for your friends. Alternatively, you can invite your friends to our house for Christmas, and Dad will arrange for someone to pick them up. Sparkling excitedly, he nodded and said, that's great. At noon, Gu Anxu was woken up by his phone and saw that his side was empty. The bed was exceptionally tidy, and there was no trace of long hair left on the pillow, as if no one had slept at all. The man didn't even answer the phone, but suddenly became agitated and ran outside the bedroom. Dusk. No one answered. But soon he saw the phone card she had removed from her old phone on the table in the living room, proving that she had not left. Gu Anxu breathed a sigh of relief and walked towards the study. As he passed by the corridor, he saw a figure downstairs through the bright window. Strolling closer, Su Muyan was seen alone building a snowman in the yard. She was wearing a short white floral jacket, washed blue high-waisted jeans, and white short boots, which were very thin. Without warmth on his head and hands, he wore a big brand scarf around his neck. In winter, she usually follows Gu Anxu by car for basic travel, and spends very little time outdoors in the cold. They don't have bulky clothing like down jackets, and he has never bought gloves for her. He always feels like he doesn't need it. However, he also wanted to buy an expensive fur for Su Muyan, but she refused on the grounds of environmental protection. He furrowed his brows and opened the window. Suddenly, the extremely cold wind blew in. He raised his voice and said to himself, come back, don't freeze and catch a cold. Su Muyan was taken aback for a moment, then lifted her head and smiled at the upstairs. Now there was a hazy sunlight that happened to hit her fair face. A layer of pale gold bathed her frozen red face, and she smiled with white teeth, I'm about to pile it up. Gu Anxu suddenly fell into a daze. This kind of Su Muyan has more vitality than ever before, just like her appearance 8 years ago when she was only 16 years old. She is lively and beautiful, and a young girl has just emerged. Beauty is beauty, but building a snowman is always meaningless. After all, as soon as the sun rises, there is nothing left. Stop piling up, come up quickly, I'm a bit hungry. The next second after the words fell, it seemed as if the sky was suddenly gloomy, and the sparkling Su Muyan suddenly disappeared. Oh! She grabbed another handful of snow and reluctantly patted the snowman before standing up and walking indoors with her head down. A few minutes later, Gu Anxu heard her voice. I'll go make lunch. Gu Anxu quickly followed her over, a little concerned about whether it had dampened her interest, but also thinking that building a snowman was just a whim in her childhood. And the child's nature always fades away quickly, so he ignored it. Su Muyan still thought of continuing to pile up the snowman after lunch, so that the yard would no longer be lifeless. But after lunch, Gu Anxu asked her to change into a formal and elegant outfit and go out with him. He has a friend who has come from the imperial capital and wants to see him. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Gu Anxu wore a high-necked fur collar inside and a dark coffee-colored casual suit outside, simple and luxurious yet warm. In addition to the dazzling white snow for thousands of miles, he also wore a pair of brown goggles. After tidying up, Su Muyan came out of the room and happened to see him looking up at the dark clouds in the sky, with a gentle and elegant appearance. But Su Muyan's heart suddenly burst out with 4 derogatory words. Refined and despicable. After hearing her footsteps, Gu Anxu turned his head and a faint smile appeared on his lips. She wore a suit in the same color as his suit, a slim-fitting long dress that was cut by hand in a 3-dimensional manner according to her figure. From the waistline to the buttocks line, there were precise calculations for the distance between the swaying hem of the skirt and the divergence of the calves. Her dark long curly hair is arranged in a high bun, and the headwear she decorates is also luxurious jewelry. This set of clothes was taken by Gu Anxu to Paris 2 months ago to watch Chanel's show, and was tailored for her by Chanel's design team. There is no similar style in the world. She always has a clear sense of Gu Anxu's liking for her at such times. Even though she is infamous, he really likes her to dress brilliantly, and then he dresses her up as a couple and takes her to meet his important friends and clients. But Su Muyan didn't expect that her thoughts would be shaken this afternoon. Gu Anxu took her to the tea house across from Gu's building. As soon as I arrived at the private room, I saw a man and a woman sipping tea, seemingly waiting for a long time. Su Muyan knows and remembers both of these 2 people. They were both at the last show. Both of them come from the southern city of Modu, and the man's name is Bai. He was a good friend of Gu Anxu when he was studying abroad, and the young master of the Modishan family. The woman's name is Nanmi, and she is Mo Wei's cousin and friend. Last time we met, Nanmi even pulled Gu Anxu to question why she was with this vicious woman who had harmed Mo Wei. Bai's appearance bears a striking resemblance to his name, with fair skin, a tall and slender figure, and a delicate face. He wore an elegant and slim-fitting shirt and vest, much like a talented poet and writer of the Republic of China. However, even in the old days, such people were often scumbags. Bai is a promiscuous wanderer who lingers in the streets and alleys. But Nanmi, on the other hand, wore a noble young lady's demeanor, with mature brown short curly hair in the style of a senior sister. She wore a slim-fitting long skirt with the buttocks wrapped around her, and was adorned with elegant animal-colored fur. She also had extremely long punk manicures on her hands. They often come and go together because the Shen and Nan families want to get married and create various opportunities for them to interact. However, their personalities are too different, and they both look down on each other and have to pretend under family pressure. After Su Muyan approached, he found a snow-white fox dog lying on Nanmi's body. And the dog was wearing a necklace around its neck hidden in the puppy's fur, which was hard to detect, but Su Muyan saw it. Su Muyan's heart turned sour. Because that necklace and her headwear are in the same series. What is the connotation of Nanmi? Gu Anxu sat down opposite Bai, but Su Muyan didn't want to sit and wanted to leave. But Nanmi looked at her and lifted her red lips before saying, "And Su is really good at nurturing people. Miss Su is even more beautiful this time than last time, especially the custom-made jewelry on her head. It really sets her apart." End of this chapter.